By the way, is it just before we get into like all the future and stuff, give us like some brief thoughts on how last year did go for Fnatic, because it felt like, look, you did have those scenarios with like standings and stuff, which made it like no one expected like deep runs, but it felt like every time you were always on the cusp of doing a run and it never really happened.
Yeah, so we had a like debrief today, like with the pro gaming like backroom staff today, and there were like quite a lot of ups and downs this year, both like on and off the server. And obviously, like, we're quite good at keeping things private, so there were things going on in the background that kind of was unfortunate, and we dealt with them extremely well, I think. And like the fact that it never got leaked or anything is incredible. So
that's also how you know as well that you're not an NA team. Like, we didn't even know there was drama. Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah,
well done.
It's not like drama, but just like personal issues. And
fair enough.
Like,
okay.
Serious things.
Yes.
So, you know, like quite explicitly, like the Russia situation was obviously something that affected the team. So
no doubt. Yeah.
I'm not using these as excuses. Like, we definitely did underperform, but like if you look at our like online performance, we were kind of incredible. Like, we lost like 3 games online essentially, and I think at LAN we kind of just like we didn't crumble, but we definitely just underperformed a little bit. I think this game has a lot of like hot streaking, and I think that we just didn't hit the hot streak at LAN. And like some people will be like, you know, chokers, fraud, Fnatic, and all that kind of crap. But like, you know, maybe there's some learnings to take away from it, but I don't think it's as simple as just like, you know, we get to a stage and we just choke. Like, that just seems irrational to me. So I've kind of stepped away from this to kind of look at like what are the tangible things I can do to try and improve us, and like, you know, because I can't stop us at like getting to a certain point and just like apparently crumbling. I just don't think that actually is true. But I do think there are discipline issues and things like that, and nerves do play a factor. So we're kind of tackling those right now.
I was going to ask is like, whether you consider it to be like an online versus LAN thing or a domestic versus international thing, because you could also phrase it as saying like domestically you performed really well in 2022, and then it was international, and it's like you didn't even have like awful, you know, like in Masters Copenhagen you were top 4, and I know that that's never going to be satisfactory to a team that's trying to win or whatever, but it's still like a notable place to come. So it's, you can't really argue that you did poorly internationally, but your international results weren't the same as your domestic results. Is that to you more of like the issues that come with LAN versus online, or do you think that's something that, you know, for example, moving into this next season, you're obviously going to be playing essentially domestically, but you are going to be playing on LAN?
I actually, like, I think it was more a LAN online thing, but at the same time, there's so few sample sizes of these things that it's like variance is quite high in this game. You got like we lost 3 best of 3s in the year, and those best of 3s kind of summed up our year to people. So the variance is quite high. But at the same time, yeah, I do think it was not about domestic, because I feel like my eye test is pretty good. Like, I can tell when we're playing good or not. And I think in Copenhagen we came top 4. I don't think we played a single good game of Valorant in Copenhagen. I think at Champions we had played some good Valorant. Like, we started really slow. We were horrible. We showed some extremely good, beautiful Valorant that I know what we can play, and then we just choked against Vision Strikers. DRX, sorry.
DRX, yeah, same team, but yeah, sure.
Like, we were in a position to just absolutely crush them, and then decided to just throw like 7 rounds that we shouldn't have thrown, basically. So yeah, so for me, like, Copenhagen was a disaster, because I was just like, you know, we come top 4, but we played crap. But we played some beautiful Valorant at Champions, to be quite honest. Like, there was some very bad Valorant, but there was some beautiful Valorant.
Win some, you lose some.
By the way, one thing I just want to ask you about, because when I was looking at all the rosters for the lock-in tournament, I noticed that actually your team is one of the rare teams, there's not that many it looks like, that has listed 6 players. You have 6 players on your roster, whereas a lot of the teams just have the 5. Is there a reason why you took an extra player?
So because Chronicle is from Russia and having to
concerned about like visas and stuff, right?
We were just concerned about visas. Even like Alfia's from Turkey, there can be some iffy things there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
We just thought that we kind of had to bring in a substitute in case. Yeah. And unfortunately, I couldn't be the substitute. Like, I love subbing in. Like, I'm not that bad. I love subbing in for Prac. And, like, some of the teams think I'm a demon. So, like, I'm not too bad, but I'm never going to get my shot. So.
Oh, you know, the funny thing about that, by the way, mate, is usually, obviously, like, if it's an official game, everyone always, like, flames the person who stands in. The joke is, if you know you're the coach, then you have no pressure, like you're saying. If you just fuck up the other team's game, it's hilarious at that point. Like, it's actually more tilting.
You never know. It could be a Fnatic thing. There's a really famous story in Rainbow Six where there was a major in Rio, I want to say. It was Brazil. and the star player of the team got like appendicitis or something like that, like 24 hours before they had to fly out. And so their coach Dizzle, who is an incredible guy, the Fnatic team in Rainbow Six was Australian, and so they were obviously all hilarious. He had to stand in. And they got to something like top 3 in the major with Dizzle standing in for their star player. So you never know. Maybe...
And was he actually good, or was he just carried by him?
I think he was carried. Like, he basically took the like hard support anchor role and was like, everybody else do all this shit and like, but whatever. But it's still a fucking story.
Oh, it's still legit.
And you know, maybe that's a Fnatic thing. Like, you go to Brazil, you got to stand in for one of your players, and the coach playing, you win. So there you go.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping that would happen, but no. Like, because I do miss like I got a bit of a CS background. I do miss kind of playing and competing a little bit. So every time I do get to sub in a scrim, which isn't much anymore because obviously we've got an actual substitute now, it did kind of spark that little bit of like, and obviously the boys would be like laughing at me and kind of like taking the piss, but like I would take it as seriously as possible. We're gonna be angry at people,
Oh, really? You try hard?
Yeah, I was trying hard. It's so bad. Yeah.
Right. Whereas they would just like, if you get a kill, like, whatever, brilliant, Like,
but sometimes I was actually good, and so it was like, guys, like if I'm top fragging this, like, what's going on, guys? Like, come on.
That's what I always feel whenever I'm in a ranked game. Like, I'm always like, if I'm top fragger, there's a problem.
Yeah.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.